Yes. No way. Oh my God.
Very subtle.
Unbelievable. Oh. And he missed it. Oh my God. Ooh la la.
Boom, no chance.
That's crazy. Game, set, and match.
This is too much.
Hi everyone, we're watching today the fourth round match between Musetti and Fritz, which on the paper to me is a very close match. Not only because those two players are members of the top 10, but also I would say that on hard courts, Fritz has a little advantage, but it's not the Fritz that is super in a super condition. He struggled during the preseason with his knee. He said he has some other small injuries here and there, and we know that he's not 100%. So it makes this match even more. You don't know it's difficult to predict the result of that match. We have a few statistics regarding those two players that I want to share with you before we dive into the match. So far, it's 2-1 up for Fritz, but no break. A few keys that we're going to look at during this match. The first one is, it's about the serve and the return efficiency, which is always extremely important in the matches in general. We have noticed that Musetti has won 56% of his second serve so far, and that the opponents have stayed deep behind the baseline. And actually, we have a video of the press conference of Fritz in which he talks about it, about the speed of his second serve. Fritz has taken every second return on the baseline so far. He's a very offensive player, and he likes to step in, and he wants and he needs to be the one dictating. And when they played each other at the ATP finals, Fritz stayed 1 meter behind the baseline. So a little bit further back because he knows that Musetti is going to really push hard on his second serve. The second key is the depth in the returns of Musetti. So Fritz has played throughout the whole tournament. He has played 72% of his serve plus one inside the baseline. So that's a key to be able to return deep on second serves to prevent the opponent from being in charge and from potentially even hitting a winner on the second shot. By the way, Fritz has hit a winner on his second shot 25% of the time after his serve. Musetti's opponent have played their serve plus one inside the baseline 62% of the time, which means that Musetti has a tendency to return a bit short. And they were able to hit a forehand after the serve, which is also a key. If you're able to be inside the baseline and hit a forehand, you have a huge advantage and a big chance to win the point. So that's a lot. Just saying that Musetti is returning a ball that is a bit floating and a bit short, and that will be a key today when it comes to Fritz serving and potentially Musetti having a chance to break. Now the third key point about Fritz's position on Musetti's second serve. And this question, will Fritz step in on Musetti's second serve or will he stay far back? A little bit further back. He's not going to stay far back for sure, but he never does, but a little bit more. The tour average of points won on second serve is 49% and Musetti has won 56%. He has a good kick serve on the second. And actually, it's a good example of what we just said. Fritz, after his first serve, is inside the baseline, hitting a forehand, and he ends up winning the point. And so far, Musetti's opponents have stayed behind the baseline and deep 70% of the time on Musetti's second serve. Fritz has taken every second return on the baseline so far. And in the ATP finals, Fritz stayed 1 meter behind the baseline. So the position of Fritz once it's about returning second serves of Musetti will be key. And of course, we will measure the percentage of first serves, considering that probably both of the players will win many, many points on their first because they're able to step in right after the serve, because they're able to hit a forehand right after the serve. So we will be very careful and pay attention on those figures. A little bit about the program today. We have amazing matches. Unfortunately, the one that we were really looking forward to watching, the match between Mensik and Djokovic will not happen because Mensik pulled out. He withdrawn from the match. Unfortunately, suffering from an abdominal injury, same as Naomi Osaka. And again, I'm really surprised by the number of injuries for the second half of 2026 and 2025 and and the start of 2026. I think it's really a lot, and I think we need to find an explanation for that. 2 games all in that match, and it was a second serve of Fritz. Musetti was staying far behind the baseline, and 2 break points for him is making, and that's the thing, as Fritz is a bit injured, he needs shorter points, and Musetti is able to play deep with a lot of spin, playing high over the net, and he makes Fritz work too much. A little question from Mura45, who's asking, is there an age requirement for a child to be accepted at the Muratoglu Academy? Yes, there is. There is none for the camps, but when it comes to the tennis and school, we start at 11 years old when they start high school, not before. Musetti in a good position to make the break, and he is making the break on that overhead. Is dominating the rallies without any doubt with his heavy topspin. That's why this player is so good on clay. So Mura45, you should, if you want some more details about either the camps or the tennis and school, we have emails. You can write to camps@muratoglu.com or tennisandschool@muratoglu.com. The first break in that match, let me see the statistics so far. And I just want to tell you that on, I guess, the Margaret Court, there is a match going on between Wang and Anisimova. Anisimova's 4-3 up, but no break so far. Anisimova played the best year of her career last year, playing 2 Grand Slam finals, Wimbledon and the US Open. If you remember that when she was under 20, she played the semifinals of Roland Garros. It just tells you that she's able to play on any surface. She's really impressive to me, this player. Probably the best backhand on tour, first of all. And second, her timing is incredible and she plays so fast. Oh, one result, very important. The defending champion lost last night against Pegula. Let me give you the score. She lost, so Madison Keys lost to Pegula 6-3, 6-4 in this All-American match. Now I have another thing that I know you guys love, which is the win predictor made by our AI team. So it's not the official one of the Australian Open. And here it is. Fritz, 63.5%. It's been done after 2-all in the first set. And Musetti is 36.5%. And I believe Musetti has a better chance to win today, considering the context of the multiple problems of Fritz, physical problems. And just looking at the performance of those 2 players so far in the tournament. And another information, and I want to just confirm it by watching French TV. They were saying that the conditions were difficult in terms of heat. I just want to confirm it. Yeah, it's hot. It's 28 degrees Celsius, so it's quite hot. I know how strong is the sun here in Australia, and tomorrow's the hottest because we go up to 37. So it's going to be a Yannick Sinner day, but thankfully for him, he's going to play today. So after that, we're going to have the 2 other matches. We're going to follow our Darderi Sinner and Shelton against Ruud. And the winner of the match we're watching at the moment will play Novak Djokovic in the next round. And you're seeing on the screen at the moment the heat stress scale, so which is basically the 5 stages before they decide to take decisions, stop the matches, or for the courts which have a court, close the roof. And you see also the 4 factors and it's a combination of factor that leads the Australian Open to take the decision. 4 factors, which are the air temperature, the radiant heat, the humidity, and the wind speed. So we know it's a combination of those 4, but we don't know how the calculation is made. So we don't know. And this brings speculations, because basically they close it when they have those 4 conditions at a certain level. But at the end, they can do whatever they want, because we don't know what's the calculation. Just want to tell you also that Musetti has confirmed the break easily without dropping a point on his serve. See how far back Musetti is to return. We don't even see him, he's in the shade. And as you can see also, Taylor Fritz is missing more balls than usual. Just some statistics of that match so far. One is really shocking. Taylor is hitting 43% of her serves in only, which is extremely low. And even more shocking, he wins only 44% after his first serve and 62 after his second, where Musetti wins 82 after his first. So that explains also the break. And it's a bit surprising because against Stan Wawrinka in the previous round, Taylor served incredibly well. And another enforced error for the American. 9 already for only 4 winners. So as I said earlier, it's not the Fritz that we know. It's a Taylor Fritz that is struggling, and he will probably struggle a little bit this first 3 months at least of the season because of his injuries that we don't know much about. We just know that he has a tendonitis on his knee. This is for sure because he said he spent most of his preseason for rehab on his knee, more than really tennis preparation. And again, 2 break points for Musetti. Taylor, who's not hurting his opponent so far. And you see also how dangerous the Italian is when you give him angles. So he had a great angle on the backhand, and he found back an incredible angle, really pushing Taylor Fritz completely out of the court to leave it wide open for the next shot. And break again on an unforced error forehand after his serve. And 5-2 for Musetti, double break. So this set, you can forget about it. I mean, the first serve win for Taylor Fritz is down to 40% and 82 for Musetti. That's a huge problem. I mean, to think that Taylor Fritz makes more points on his second serve kick than on his first, that's really questioning. 10 unforced errors already after 7 games. And another figure very low is the 4 winners. I mean, we're talking about Taylor Fritz, one of the most aggressive player on tour, with huge weapons, with a huge serve. So in a way, his percentage of first serve of 42%, which is crazy low as well, is not very important because he wins only 40% of the points. So after his serve, but I mean, I have to think that the multiple small injuries that he talked about are affecting probably serve motion, probably legs. So how he pushes on his legs to hit the ball. And Musetti is serving now for the first set. And if you think about it, so Djokovic, who won the match against Mensik because Mensik withdrawn because of injury, is going to play the winner of Musetti and Fritz has injuries. Not to talk about all the players who had to retire during a match or pull out or withdraw for medical reasons. By the way, the schedule has changed today because of the withdrawal of Mensik. 6-2 Musetti. Fritz won his service game. Let me tell you what I feel about Fritz today. First of all, I think that Musetti is bringing many more balls back after the serve of Taylor than usual. All the rallies are long because he plays deep with a lot of spin. I think he doesn't feel great, and he's thinking, I mean, consciously or subconsciously, this is going to be a nightmare. I will have to fight 4 hours in the hit, feeling really bad if I want to win, and I think it's a little bit discouraging today. Another forehand return missed by far, by the way, for Taylor. I give you just a few more also information about what Fritz said in Turin, the ATP finals. He said he could hold the injury in terms of pain, but after a certain number of hours it was becoming too much, and today he knows he will have to put these hours, even more after losing the first set, by the way, but that this injury was impacting more his ability to recover, and he couldn't do really training blocks. Too difficult for him to do training blocks, and that affects his recovery for sure, his form. So since last season he's struggling, that he hoped to be able during the preseason to do a serious block, but he could not. He could only spend his time just taking care of his injury. That's what he did. I mean, 4 unforced error returns for Fritz on this service game of Musetti. So the more the same scenario happens, the more it starts to be mentally difficult for Taylor. And we're in the tiebreak between Anisimova and Wang. I'm going to follow that tiebreak because the match so far is not very exciting between Musetti and Fritz, but I'll come back, don't worry. I mean, if you ever worry, by the way. Anisimova is moving the ball around very well as always, and Wang is running and fighting, just plays everything in the center. That's clearly a strategy not to give angle to Anisimova, and suddenly boom, she opens and wins the point. That's actually a quite a classic strategy. We know that if there is one thing that Anisimova is not great at is movement. She's good because she feels the game extremely well, she anticipates well, so she's okay, she's moving okay, and every time she hits the ball she hurts. But by playing center, you avoid her from being able to hit winners and find good angles. And then suddenly you open the court and make her have to sprint. Again, everything center for Wang. I mean, if Taylor wants to have a single chance in that match, he needs his serve. He has to raise his first serve percentage and find a way to make more points. That's a funny story with Anisimova because many years ago, maybe 20 years ago, I was in Miami at the Miami Open with Serena walking on the public area, and a woman came to me and said, "Would you be okay to play with my daughter? She's 6 only, but she's playing amazing. I'm sure you will really be impressed by her." And I said yes, and I played. We went to, there was a condo, and there was maybe 2 or 3 tennis courts. This condo was in Key Biscayne. At that time, the Miami Open was in Key Biscayne. And I went on the court with a little 6 years old that was really amazing. And we played for an hour, and this player was Amanda Anisimova. And so I know her for quite a while. Musetti feels that when the points get longer, Fritz is in trouble. So he plays really with a lot of spin, whether it's very high with his forehand, with spin and deep, and a lot of slice on his backhand, mixing the heights, not giving any rhythm to Taylor, and fighting to make the points as long as possible. 30-15 for Musetti after an ace. And let's see the first set point of Anisimova. I get the statistic of what I was describing right away. That's efficiency. So we can put that. Here it is. So we're saying that Musetti was cooking with using the spin a lot. And here is the confirmation. So usually Musetti hits 40% of his backhands with slice. And today, 63% of the time, putting the ball really low, which makes Taylor Fritz work even more on his knees. And the net clearance, which is usually, oh no, that's not usually. That's the difference between those two. Fritz is hitting 0.54 meters over the net. Musetti just hit a double fault, so break point for Fritz. And Musetti's average is 0.82 meters, so way higher over the net and way deep and very deep. So that's a ball that is really difficult to attack. I think if Taylor is able to break, that would make this match suddenly way more interesting. Otherwise, so far, we don't see him having a chance. He just missed another forehand return far out on second serve. And now it's a game point for the Italian, who hits a drop shot. And back to deuce, because Fritz hit a good backhand down the line after this drop shot. And the drop shots are perfectly disguised by Musetti, because he hits so many slice backhands. You never know if it's going to be a deep slice or a drop shot. It's impossible to see it in advance. He doesn't have to change the grip or anything, or change the preparation. One thing that to me is very important is that Taylor finds a way, and a winner of Musetti playing behind Fritz, deep, high on his backhand. Yeah, he has to find a way to find the right distance. For the moment, Taylor is not comfortable returning the second serves because his position, again, it makes him hit the ball way too high over the shoulder. Instead of staying right behind the baseline, you need to make one step in just before hitting the ball. Yeah, I can tell that Fritz's body is moving backwards most of the time when he hits his shots on the forehand and on the backhand. So not only he doesn't hurt as much as he usually does, but also he makes many more enforced errors. If we could have the percentage of first serves that are back in play today for Musetti, that would be very interesting. Okay, so that's another some other data about the serve. Fritz playing serve +1 inside the court. On first serve, only 14% and 8% on second. And before this match, that was 72%. That's day and night. And one explanation is that today Musetti is able to return really deep. And it's going to be another break point for Musetti. Yeah, because he stays far. So when Fritz attacks with his forehand, Musetti has a lot of time. And he's able to hit a very good ball, deep, heavy. And makes every time Fritz work, first serve is out. Yeah, 19 on first errors so far for Taylor. That's way too much, way too much. But I think he overhits because he doesn't have many opportunities and he can't afford to have longer rallies because of his physical condition. And a serve winner to save his break point. I mean, for him, saving the break point at that moment is a key, because if he doesn't, then the match will be really taking a bad turn for him. Musetti tried to hit a winner, which is a strange choice after Fritz's first serve. I mean, at this point, it better force Taylor to move back and start longer rallies, because he's really on the edge. Oh my God, the ability Musetti to brings a lot of balls back is amazing. We see the physio entering the court. Fritz took off his shirt And another figure that is interesting is the percentage of points won by Musetti between 0 and 4 points. And this is not a good data for Teller. Oh, wow, he has tapes on his upper body too. So they are redoing the tapes on his upper body. He has on the sides, on both sides, up and down. Yeah, so the bit between 0 and 4, definitely Fritz should lead this one and definitely lose over 4 shots, but it's not at all. And that's probably due to the fact that he struggles to return Musetti on both first and return and second, and his figures on serve are not good today, which is very unusual for him. I don't know if it's abdominal or not because it's really on the side, but it might be because he has some lower ones also. So the knee and both sides of the upper body starts to be a little bit too much. Taylor puts back his shirt and is ready to return, and he needs to find solutions to be better returning. It looks like so far that he's struggling with the topspin a lot to find his rhythm, and it starts with an ace from Musetti. This Italian player is really interesting because he's obviously extremely talented. I think it's difficult not to see it. Has great touch, great hands, easy power, but he's a really hard worker. And it's interesting that the year his wife was pregnant, he didn't play well at all. I remember Holger played him in Indian Wells and he was making a lot of mistakes. He was getting very angry. And once the baby was born, it changed completely and he started to play incredibly well. I remember seeing him at it was in Frankfurt. He played the UTS there and he was working so hard. He was the first one at practice in the morning and he was playing the matches, and before every match he would practice for 2 hours. And I remember I said when I was commentating his match during UTS, I said, oof, be careful, this guy is gonna be there and he's gonna make amazing results very soon. And he completely rose from that moment. I don't know what happened in his head when his baby was born, but I'm not saying he was not working before, but I think that since the baby was born, he got fully focused. And another great serve. How good Musetti is serving in that match so far. That's really also something that gives even less chances to Taylor Fritz. And Nisimova has to face 2 break points on her serve. And again, on a shot going fast center from Wang, Nisimova misses the backhand. And we're back to 1-1, no more break. There I see comments on the links between the personal life and the professional life when it comes to tennis. And that's an interesting topic, and I have a few stories for you. Yeah, it's either or, and same when the guys get a girlfriend. It can be an incredible booster, and it can be the opposite. I've seen players, I don't want to name, who started to be in a relationship and completely affected the results. And on the other hand, sometimes it's the opposite. I remember one that was interesting. It was Tipsarevic when he was a good player all his career, top 100, nothing special, good player, not very high in the rankings. And one year he plays incredible and reaches the top 10. And I bump into his coach that I knew in Players Lounge. I don't remember where. Maybe it was Australian Open. And I said to him, "Oh, by the way, great job with Janko. This year he broke into the top 10. That's huge." And what he answered me shocked me. He said, "Oh, but I did nothing for that." I said, "What do you mean?" "No, it's just that he met this girl. He's so in love. She's so in love, and for him was the biggest boost. It gave him so much confidence, and he's a different guy. So of course, it affected positively all these results. So you see, and I always say that all the wives on tour play such an important role because I'm talking about the top players. They all have a wife that is over supportive and super fan of them, and it gives them a lot of confidence. In the case of Musetti, it's not the girlfriend, it's the baby. I don't know, maybe he felt he had a responsibility now, and he started to work extremely hard. And same in the next Netflix documentary when Taylor Fritz said that his rise to the top 10 was driven by his girlfriend's support. So that's really a key for success. But again, in some other cases, it's the opposite. And Taylor won his Indian Wells when his girlfriend started to follow him on the tour. Yeah, I see on the chat, Monfils and Svitolina. I don't really agree on this one. Sorry. But I'm being honest. Monfils made all his results before being with Svitolina, being top 10 for years and years. I mean, it didn't hurt him, but he didn't play especially well since he's with her. maybe for her more. Because after the baby, she came back, and I think she's fitter than before the baby, but it could be the baby. She's fitter, and I think at the moment she's playing some of her best tennis, but there is not a huge difference either. Same for Bencic. So yes, she pushed baby Gael to come back on tour, but after the injury, but I cannot say that the results were much better after he started to date her. They were not worse. I mean, they were not better. But I know she's pushing him. I know she's so disciplined and she has a great work ethics, so it influenced him positively. But again, for some players, the results were spectacular. We talked about Fritz, we talked about Tipsarevic, but there are many other examples. And now the physio's called on court for Wang, who's down 2-1, break again, and we have the stats of the return in play. No, directions. I'm not sure I understand the stat well. Yeah, it's probably the percentage of balls back in play. Let's have a look. It's interesting. Okay, I'm gonna look. Okay, so that's the returns in play. So for Musetti, the first serve of Fritz on his forehand, he puts back in play 89%. That's huge. He was at 81 the rest of the Australian Open, and we know how good a server Fritz is. On his backhand, he puts back in play 78%, same as usual, but with a better server, way better. Now on second serves, he puts back on his forehand only 73%, so it's less than usual. But on backhand, 90%, which is more than usual. But it's the return on first serves. For a big server, when your serve is constantly coming back, I think it affects you mentally quite a lot. Now coming to Fritz, usually he puts back in play 77% of the first serve, on his forehand, only 73% today, and backhand, this is where it's terrible. First serve 33% as opposed to 75% usually, and second serve backhand 80%. That's not the impression that I have. Missing so many, and 71%, usually 82 on second serve. But what is Musetti doing very well is he gives Fritz always some balls that Fritz cannot do anything with. Like the only thing he can do is play cross and continue the rally. He can't attack. He plays very low or very high, or he moves him. But you can feel that every time he hits the ball, there is this intention to prevent Taylor Fritz from being able to be aggressive. Fritz was doing a little bit better at the moment. 15, again, a very deep topspin return of Musetti that forces Fritz to commit an unforced error. Yeah, Fritz again in a bad position. He tried to hit the ball early, like right after the bounce, and he was really in a bad position. And you see the team of Musetti all smiles. They can feel that it's not the day of Taylor today, and even when he hits the ball in, it doesn't find good angles. He doesn't hurt Musetti, who plays really centered with a lot of spin. Aimumbo is asking me if he's going too big. He's going bigger than usual. He hits flatter, he hits with less spin, the figures show it, and he's less precise in his footwork. So yeah, that's the explanation for so many unforced errors. Again, I go back to the stats. It's really way too many. 23 unforced errors in not even 2 sets. It's a lot. 15 only for Musetti. I think for the American in his current form to imagine playing 5 sets today and win is difficult to believe. So I think if he loses that second set, it's going to be probably a 3 sets win for Musetti. Yeah, he needs to be stronger mentally. I think he does what he can today. You know, when your movement is affected in that game that is called tennis, it affects the whole performance. It's almost impossible to, because you make many more unforced errors and you're too often in bad position, so you don't feel your game. And a lot of people, when people don't, we've heard players complain about, I don't feel the ball today, and they think it's their hand and they don't understand, but 90% of the time it's their movement, which is not great. They're not in a good position, so they cannot transfer well, and it affects the feeling on the ball. And and coming back to a discussion we were having about, some people were saying that the top 10 today was not as good as the top 10 in the previous generation, and I think that was interesting to hear both comments of Medvedev and Zverev saying the exact opposite, and Zverev knows what he's talking about because he played with the previous generation too, and he said the current generation, of course, is better, hitting the ball harder, and that's tennis is evolving, which I believe too. I'm not trying to make the previous generation feel low, but It's just that tennis is evolving. When you watch matches from 15 years ago, even Federer, and you watch right after Sinner and Alcaraz, the game is faster. There is no doubt about it. So definitely they are better. And that's confirmed by Zverev. That's confirmed by Medvedev, who said he doesn't want to be that guy that after his career says, oh, it was better before, we were better before. And he said, I hope I'm not going to do that. I agree with him. Yeah. And the pace is faster. That's fact. You look at the figures, it is faster. And even for someone like Musetti, who hits with a lot of spin, even the average serve is faster. And actually, I had my AI team work on having the X top 10, the one of the previous generation, play against Alcaraz and Sinner. We can do that. We can create bots taking all the statistics of a player. When I say statistics, I mean everything, like the pattern of play, the speed of their shots, the accuracy, everything, and make them play against others. And we did that. And Alcaraz and Sinner are beating the previous top 10 more than 90% of the time, all of them. Cédric Roquette is asking an interesting question. Cédric Roquette Tennis. When Musetti was number 10, 15 in the world, you praised his progression and work ethics, but you noted that he was maybe too passive on court and in the great matches, more in reaction than action. Now that he's top 5, would you say that he's taking full responsibility of the rallies on the court? Yeah, I think he's way less passive. He's still incredible in defense. He still has the tendency to be a bit passive, because when you have this in you and you've been playing like this for years, you can't erase it like this. But I think he takes way more responsibility, and especially when it comes to the big matches. He's using his forehand a lot. He's serving good, way better. Oh, that's a big mistake again from Fritz. Again, slow in running around the backhand and in a bad position, so hits an unforced error. I think he's taking responsibility way more, but I think next stage he will have to do it even more and more systematically, even in the other matches. So it becomes a habit. Like thinking as a player, okay, I'm a bit passive, but when I will really need it, I will do it. It's not a good way to think, because, habit is made by repetition. So when you are playing all those matches, when you lack aggressiveness, but you still win because you're better, you're just making your habits be passive. And even if you're less passive on the big matches, you're still going to be passive on the important moments, because it has become part of your DNA, because you repeat it every single day. And 3 break points for Musetti now, that played great in defense and ended up hitting a forehand down the line winner on the run, because today Taylor Fritz is not hurting him enough. Ooh. Too good in defense, and then pass from defense to offense. Musetti 6-5 break. I think now it starts to be extremely complicated for Taylor Fritz. As I said, again, an incredible forehand down the line on the run. Fritz was at the net, could volley the ball back, but slow, and Musetti came back from running and hit a good backhand cross winner. Not winner, but that Fritz couldn't put back in play. Fritz that is very frustrated. He knows he can play much better than that. He thought his forehand would be winner, and he didn't cover the down the line. So that's his fault. We could see that he hit that. So he was really just behind the service box, hit a forehand cross with a good angle that he thought would be a winner, and stayed exactly where he was, in the center of the court, instead of covering the down the line, because he played cross. And Musetti found a way to hit a passing shot down the line, and as Musetti didn't cover it, he was in trouble. Never think that your shot is going to be a winner. Always believe that the ball's going to come back, so always be in a position in case it does. Mumbo is asking me if his team should show more positivity. I don't know if they should. I didn't see them show negativity, but they're a bit passive. I think they're a bit also under the shock of seeing Taylor making so many enforced errors, and they know how probably, they know everything about his physical condition, so maybe they know he's not going to be able to make it today. And it's done with another ace, 2-0 for Lorenzo Musetti against Taylor Fritz. Going to take a short pause, and I see you in a minute. Hi, back, and things are getting even worse for Taylor Fritz, who got broken in the first game of the third. 2-0 down. The American is really struggling today against Musetti. 2 reasons for that. First one is how he plays today, due to a lot of small injuries. Small because he can play, but they're not that small. It affects really his movement and his number of unforced errors. And second, the quality of the tennis played by the Italian that has the perfect game today and plays the perfect game today to really cause troubles to Taylor Fritz. With a lot of spin and depth, high balls, low balls, it really makes him work. And he has he plays perfectly. Some other data. So the positive thing for Fritz is that he fixed his main problem that he had in the first set. First set, he was really struggling when it was coming to serve +1, being inside the court only 14% of the time and on his forehand only 43%. His serve was really not efficient, and that's the biggest key, his biggest asset. So that was a real problem. His percentage of first serve was extremely low as well. In second set, he's inside the court 92% of the time, and that's why he could win his serve quite comfortably until 6-5, where he got broken. And he hits the forehand 100% of the time after his serve, because Musetti's return most of the time is floating, and it gives time to Musetti to Taylor Fritz to run around his backhand. Okay, so that's a much better service game at the moment. 40 love up, and the win predictor after 2 sets to love is 86% for Musetti. I would say 95% because I don't see Fritz playing 5 sets today, being injured and also not in shape because the injuries prevented him from doing a good preseason, and plus the temperature is high. So in a way, all the conditions are put together for him to have very low chances to win that match, and he feels more free in that service game that he won comfortably without dropping a single point with a lot of good first serves. Mumbo is asking me if the energy of the team can lift a player like Cahill and Sinner. Yeah, I think, of course, it affects a lot the player, how the energy that comes from the box. And it's important, especially in the tough moments of the match when the player gets nervous, to bring some calm. When the player is down, to bring some positive energy and help him believe in himself. Of course, it's a key. And that's why it was very frustrating when we as coaches were not allowed to interact with the player because we couldn't do our job, which was a specificity of tennis, because in all the other sports, the coaches are allowed to do their job during the competition. And now, finally, it's coming. It's asking if the energy of the audience, he's not asking or she's not asking, she's saying that the energy of the audience also plays a role. For sure it does. That's why the players usually play way better, perform way better when they're at home. Only exception is French people, because they feel this as extra pressure. So most of the time they're not good at Roland Garros. Not all of them, but the ones who are favorites, the ones who are really supposed to play well, the other ones are lifted by the energy of the crowd. But Americans in the US, Australians in Australia are generally playing way better. And that's the thing. Sometimes having the full support when you don't feel well, you can feel that it's extra pressure, especially when you're a favorite, because you feel, oh my God, I'm at home, everybody's with me, and I cannot play well. And it can affect even more the result in a negative way. And Anisimova just won her match against Wang, and she continues to perform in the Grand Slams like what she did last year, reaching the final of 2 of the 4 Grand Slams, the last 2 of the season, by the way. So her career is really moving in the right direction. And even when the crowd is against players, sometimes it plays a role. We had this interview of Novak explaining that, all his career he had the crowd against him when he was playing against Federer and Nadal. And he explained how he tricked himself to believe that they were calling his name every time they were saying, "Come on, Roger," and that it worked. Not a lot of people can do that, but he could. And sometimes we've seen also Medvedev with the crowd against him, especially in New York a few years ago, and he played the best tennis of his career. It's a fact that Fritz has been very efficient when coming to the net. He has won 89% of the points there. So when you see that, you think, wow, he should really come to the net way more often, because today from the baseline he's struggling against Musetti. That's true, but when he comes to the net, it's because he has the ball for it, and he comes in really with a great approach. If he starts to go more often on balls that are not the right ones, he's going to get past. And actually, this point was a counter example because he hit a great forehand and Musetti played a very slow ball. He could have come to the net after this one and he did not. And the rally kept going. He finally won it, but this is what he needs to avoid. So take every single occasion to go to the net for sure, but make sure he's coming to the net on the right ball, being able to hit a very good shot, not a ball that is too, how can I say that? Too neutral. That was the word I was looking for. I don't think Fritz can mentally come back from this position because of a combination of factors. I think this guy is a fighter, but I think that today, first, he's missing a lot. And second, he feels injured. And I think he's suffering really much on the court. So I think in a way, he knows some deep inside that he's not going to go all the way to the five sets and win it. But he knows also that in this sport, there is always a hope. Anything can happen. Musetti can get injured. He can get struck by the hit. You never know. So if you stay alive, and even if it's 1% of chances, then you give yourself the chance to potentially make it. And the fact that he's serving better now helps him. 3-2 for Lorenzo. Musetti still has the break, but as we just said, Taylor Fritz is still in the match. Mumbo is reminding us this Nadal-Medvedev Australian Open 22. Yes, when Medvedev was up 2-0 and a break. But it was a bit different because I don't think that Rafa was injured. I don't think that Rafa was not well prepared. DH John 77 is saying that Musetti's match plan seems to be about playing topspin deep with some variety, slices, and change of direction. That's exactly it. What should you tell Fritz or other player in this situation to adjust in his game? Well, I mean, there's not 100 different possibilities. He needs to step in as every time he can to be aggressive. And he needs to follow at the net every time he can. The thing is, and I think he's kind of doing it, but the thing is, because of his movement, today this causes too many unforced errors, and that's the reason why the score is what it is, 6-2, 7-5, 3-2 break for the Italian. So I'm not saying that Fritz is not doing the right thing, I'm just saying that he's struggling to do it today. I think he's really definitely doing the right thing. But Musetti can also potentially get tight when he comes closer to the finish line. This is things that happen sometimes. And he's been very consistent since the start. He can start to be a bit more inconsistent because he gets closer to the finish line. So the fact that Fritz was able to win his serve comfortably was a very good sign for me. This one was short. He didn't step in. I think at the moment he accepts too much the rally and he doesn't really take advantage of, again, a very short ball from Musetti in the box, and he stays behind the baseline so he doesn't hurt the Italian enough. And after a long rally, he ends up missing his backhand. I think that's what makes a difference today. The fact that Fritz is close to the baseline, but he doesn't step in whenever his opponent is giving him the opportunity. Serve and volley for Musetti. Very nicely done. Great volley. And two game points for the Italian. Beautiful volley. A lot of application, and he hits the volley, continues the movement forward with two more steps to keep a lot of control. That's a very common mistake, to stop your legs when you hit the volley, and this is when the ball flies. To get the control, you have to come with the ball, keep running forward 1 or 2 steps. Slow down, of course, not go full sprint. Slow down when you get in touch with the ball, but continue. Don't stop. Don't, go with it. A good serve for Musetti, and 4-2 up in the third and 2-0. Just as a reminder, tonight we're going to have another American, Ben Shelton, who's going to take on Casper Ruud. Casper Ruud, who beat Cilic in the previous match. And something interesting about Ruud is the fact that his wife is pregnant. They're expecting in the next weeks. And he said before the tournament, if the delivery starts, I jump in a plane and I come back home. I want to be there to see the birth of my first child. So we know that another player can pull out, withdraw at any time. And I hope this doesn't happen, because I feel that Casper is doing way better at the moment. He's back to a good form. So if he loses against Shelton because Shelton is better today, that's totally fine. But if he loses because he has to come back home, that would be sad. And I really like the way he hits the ball at the moment, Casper. I think he puts really a lot of energy. He looks way more confident in his shots than he was last year. And remember that this player is a triple Grand Slam finalist, 2 Roland Garros finals and 1 US Open. Yeah. as a confirmation that that Fritz is doing so much better now on his service games. He's inside the court, hitting a forehand, and can hit a winner quite often. In the first set, he was not inside the court, and he was not hitting as many forehands. That's why he was struggling on his service games. He's not anymore, but he's down 2 sets and a break now, so it starts to be really complicated for him. So Shelton Rood will be on the same court after the first night session match, which will oppose Inglis, the surprise of this fourth round, the Australian qualifier. An interesting statistics for us to look at, which is about the 0.4 rallies, and I believe in theory Fritz should be leading this one, of course losing most of the longer points, but between 0 and 4 with his serve quality and his aggressiveness on the return, he should win most of them, but he doesn't because it's Musetti. He wins 65% of the 0-4, the points that go under 4 shots. Usually Fritz win 54% of the points between 0 and 4 shots, Musetti 52%, and surprisingly, when the rally goes over 4 shots, it's Fritz who wins more points, 54%. But even if it's true, which I believe is true, of course, these rallies that go over 4 shots are not good for Fritz, who's not prepared the way he usually is. I feel that Fritz is a bit forcing, hitting harder and flatter from the baseline instead of playing as usual, but stepping in more. But, the last mistake, again, he was not in a good position to hit the forehand. Well, that's a great one for Fritz that moved the ball around with his forehand, being super aggressive, and he came to the net to finish up the point with a swing volley, even though the tactical choice of Musetti was a bit weird because he moved around his backhand to hit a forehand, but he was not in a great position, and he went inside in on Taylor Fritz's forehand, exposing himself. But the Italian is really focused on his match. Something nobody talked about so much. I didn't hear anything about it, but Musetti changed his coach. He had the same coach since he was a kid, and lately, so I don't know if he stopped his collaboration with his previous coach or not, but he's not here, and usually he's always here. But you have a very experienced coach, Jose Perlas, who now is taking care of Lorenzo. But let's see if previous coach shows up at other tournaments, which would mean that they work together with the new one. If not, that would mean that they ended their collaboration. But Jose Perlas, as I said, is very experienced and had a lot of good results, including with an Italian player, Fabio Fognini, who played his best year when he was coached by Perlas. Deuce. Great serve. Should be at the net, Fritz. Because the points, the rally restarts from scratch without any advantage, and he had such an advantage. He served a great serve. The ball of Musetti went really high. If he would be at the net, it would be an easy volley, and Musetti would have no chance. And instead of that, he stays behind the baseline, and we start again with no advantage. Fritz still wins the point. He has now a game point, and I hope he makes it because I want to see that service game of Musetti, who looks more nervous, making many more enforced errors in that game. And he made it. So we're going to have in a few minutes the chance to see how Lorenzo handles the nerves serving for the match against Fritz, because I don't think he expected to win in 3 straight sets. He probably expected to win because he should. Also, there is an official statement about the coaching situation for Musetti. So is coach Simone Tartarini, who was the coach of Musetti all his career since he was 8 years old, remains the head of the team. Jose Perlas, a veteran coach who has previously worked with former number 1 Carlos Moya and other top 10 players like Fabio Fognini and Juan Carlos Ferrero, officially joined the team in December 2025 to help prepare for the 2026 season. Yeah, but Simone is not here. So why? Maybe they decided for him not to come, so the relationship between Perlas and Musetti builds up. We'll see how everything evolves. I know those two guys for a very long time because Lorenzo was at my tennis academy when he was 14 years old with Simone Tartarini. So I've seen them work together and interact on a daily basis. Okay, so now I know, because I have some insight from my team, that Simone Tartarini has for personal reasons, is not here, but probably will join for the rest of the season. I think it's great that they added up Perlas, because if Musetti wants to move from being a top 5 player to being a Grand Slam champion. There are still stages and progress that have to be made, and the experience of Perlas, which is a great experience because he's been very successful as a coach, can be really helpful. Great start of the game. No nerves for Musetti, who dropped shots a lot in this game, knowing how efficient this has been since the start of the match. That's a good thing. You know, you're a bit nervous. You do the things, you focus on the things that have been working so well since the start, and you do what you do well and what's working. 3 match points for Lorenzo Musetti. And as a reminder, the winner, probably Musetti, will play against Novak Djokovic in the next round. Another drop shot. I mean, that's incredible how many drop shots in this game. And Musetti wins the match in 3 straight sets. So why did Musetti won in 3 sets against Fritz? For 2 reasons. First of all, he played the perfect match, both in terms of tactics and also was able to deliver it really well. Tactics was to play very slow, play very high, don't give rhythm to his opponent, playing deep to avoid Fritz from being able to attack. Of course, bring a lot of balls back, and of course make Fritz work as much as possible, make him move. And second, we have to say that Fritz was far from being 100% since the start of the tournament. I mean, since the start of 2026, even 2025 was very challenging for him. He's struggling with many injuries and is not well prepared because these injuries prevented him from doing a really good training blocks. This is what Fritz said before the match. He said, "I'm not going to be playing tennis. Like, there is no way. With how my body has been feeling the last couple of years, there is no way I'm going to be able to hold on for another 12 years. That's really unfortunate, but Fritz is really suffering. So, I mean, if he doesn't find a way to solve his injury problems, yes, his career is at risk. I think he's really down at the moment because for the last 2 years he's been struggling, but I'm sure that he can solve his problems and come back. He's very negative about his physical form, negative about his how his body feels at the moment, and I completely understand it, but this can change in the future. He needs to take time off, and that's probably what he's going to do as much as possible. Take time off and get ready whenever he can. Thank you very much. Again, Musetti is going to play against Djokovic in the next match, and that promises to be really exciting. Just to finish, Pegula beat Madison Keys, the winner of last year's Australian Open, and Anisimova beat the Chinese Wang in the match today. So both will be in quarterfinals. I wish you a great end of the night for the Europeans and a great night for the Americans and South Americans, and a great end of the day for the Australians, and see you for the night session. Bye bye.